Can you remember who you were before the world told you who you were supposed to be? This one question right here sums up my entire speech and everything that we're going to talk about today. So I just want you to sit with that for just a moment. I want you to remember a time that you weren't yourself, that you told yourself to be quiet, to be a little bit smaller, just because of the way the world wanted you to be instead. Just take a minute and look at this image. And not just that there's 3 women up there, but I want you to start to read some of the words that are on their bodies. Things like obnoxious, slut, flabby, not perfect, not enough, too sexy, too emotional, too fat, weak, not pretty enough. And I want you to think about which one of those words made you catch your breath. Which one of them made you feel something? Maybe something in the pit of your stomach. Maybe your heart beat a little bit faster. And I want you to understand that these 3 women, this is not a stock image. This is myself and 2 very dear friends who volunteered to do this project with me, specifically to develop this image for this speech. These are real women, and these are real words. These are words that we have carried and continue to carry in our lives as individuals. But what's unique about it is these are not just for us, these are for you. I want you to now put yourself in that photo. And imagine which words you might have strewn across your body. And at the end of the day, what this all sums up is that we feel that we're not good enough. All of those words that are written on us lead us to this belief that we're not good enough as we are, that we have to change, that we have to shrink, that we have to be a little quieter to make it okay for everyone else. And if you found one of those words that's stuck in your chest, can you remember who said it to you? Was it someone in particular? Maybe it was a parent, a coworker. Maybe it was a high school friend. And if you can't remember who that individual was, or if it didn't come from an individual, the good old media steps right in and fills in the gap for us. Maybe you were okay. Maybe you slid free of that mean girl syndrome in high school. But then we're faced with media. And the media forever tells us that we're not good enough so that we can buy their product. We're told that our boobs aren't big enough. So we need to run to La Senza and Victoria's Secret to buy their super ultra maximum push-up bra in order to be feminine and beautiful. We're told that our freckles aren't pretty, that we need flawless finished foundation in order to have a perfect look. We're told that we're too fat, so we need to buy the diet product. We're told that we're supposed to have an opinion, but we can't be too loud about it because then we're bossy and bitchy. We're told that, sure, we're supposed to be feminine and maybe a little bit sexy, but not too much, because then you're slutty and you're easy, and potentially you could be a man-stealer. So we're constantly bombarded with these ideas that we have to change in order to be okay. So I'm going to tell you a personal story. These are some of the things that I struggled with in high school. I have always been a fairly muscular person involved in athletics. And when you tend to be a lean, muscular person, you also don't have boobs. So I've lived, my entire life with barely an A-cut breast. And those of you small-chested girls out there, you know our pain of always, we go out to get dressed up and feel all sexy. And I was those one person who drove to Victoria's Secret in La Senza, and I was like, what's the ultimate push-up? And she's like, oh, okay. She'd bring me to the wall, and you go over to the wall, and you look at it, and she's like, and these are removable. And I'm looking at her like, why? This is why I'm coming, so that I can shove my boobs up to my chin and push my cleavage out. Why would I need to remove them? Right? It's ridiculous. So I would run around with this too tight bra on, trying to shove my 8-cut boobs up into this D-cup cleavage, and I was suffocating myself just because I thought that that's what I needed to be in order to be beautiful. And then let's talk about my muscular build. Okay, so I'm going to date myself a little bit. I'm almost 40. So when I was was a female athlete. So any image that was out there was of this supermodel, which she was gorgeous, but photoshopped. And so that's what I thought I needed to be. So I would hide my muscles. I didn't want them showing. Because you know what I heard when I went out to do things in places? First thing people would say to me, oh, I wouldn't want to meet you in a jar rally. Because that makes me feel super hot and feminine. Or the question was, wow, how much do you bench? I'm like, seriously? Like, I'm out with my girls trying to have a good time, and we're just like drawing massive amounts of negative attention to my muscularity. So what I learned is that it was way easier just to cover all that up and just not have to deal with it. So forever I was not comfortable with my body for those two main reasons, let alone the plethora of other words that were written on my body that I had to deal with. So I dealt with this in high school, this mean girl syndrome. Couldn't get out of high school fast enough. And so let's fast forward now to my career in the fitness industry. Been working in the fitness industry for a lot of years. And part of what I did was working in a gym. And there was a women's only facility in the gym. And I would watch these women that are supposed to be coming into the gym to do something that is healthy and positive for them, right? They're supposed to come and exercise and feel good about themselves. And they think that the women's only area, for some reason, is going to be safer than the co-ed area. So these women would come up the stairs, and there's like a little barricade, and they'd come up the stairs, and the first thing I would see are these little eyeballs that would like poke around the corner. And they're trying to see who's in there. They're trying to see how many people are in there and how many people I'm going to have to deal with when I finally get the courage to come in. So then they do. They're like, okay, we're up the stairs, okay, we're in, and all of a sudden they can see the entire gym. And what happens? All the other ladies in the gym are doing their thing, and all of a sudden they're like, and they like digital scan her, right? Like the Terminator. And what are they looking for? They're looking at this woman who just walked in, and they're asking themselves these questions. Why does she have makeup on? Why is she trying to try so hard? She's in the gym, she's supposed to be sweating. Does she look better in her outfit than I do? Is her midriff showing? My midriff isn't showing because I'm not happy with my midriff. Is she remotely sexy when she walks in here? You're not supposed to be sexy, you're supposed to be working out. How dare she be a little bit sexy when she comes in? And heaven forbid, her body is in a little bit better shape than all the other women in the gym. Because if it is, or if she's a little bit pretty, she is never going to fit in. Ever. Because all the women in the gym have decided that they hate her. Because there's a few things about her that they are not comfortable with in themselves. Right? So I would watch this take place, and I thought to myself, why is this happening? I thought that the mean girl syndrome was about immaturity, that it was going to leave once we changed age. And that's not what happened. And the more I asked this question, the more I started to realize it wasn't because women hated each other, it's because they hated themselves. And everything they hated about themselves, they then in turn started judging other women for. And in a tribe mentality, when we're supposed to be encourage each other and picking each other up, we're tearing each other apart instead. And I realized that this is what was happening in my personal life, and this is what was starting to happen with women everywhere. And I finally got to the point where I just wanted to scream. I would watch these women shrink and fade and not do the things that are amazing that they can do, that they're capable of, just because they didn't want to step into that judgmental area and have to face it once again. And I finally got to a point in my life where I was like, enough is enough. I am enough. I am complete. And I finally got to the point where I could say that about myself, and then I turned it into a picture. So I specifically chose this photo because, or to create this photo, because I was basically saying up yours to the entire industry of women hate. I was like, I'm okay now with my small boobs, because it allows me to wear a dress like this, no bra. Okay? And I chose this position in my arms because it was showing my biceps, which I am now incredibly proud of because it allows me to hold myself sideways on a pole. Yes, I said pole because I have a pole dancing studio. So now we're going to talk about how I took this concept and this revelation personally and turned it into something that I knew the entirety of women needed. My studio is called the Goddess Movement. Woo. And when it was created, I looked at what was going on with women, and I thought, change the rules? What if we just decided that it wasn't okay anymore for women to judge each other? That we're going to teach them a new way to connect with each other, a new way to connect with themselves and figure out who they actually are at the core, underneath all of those lies and those words written on their bodies. So the studio was created with 3 general rules. And the first one was that I worked very hard and continue with my staff to help them with their own personal development. So they can get to that point where they're like, right? And once they do, then they start to realize, okay, you know what? I am just so happy to share this concept with other women. So that when our students come in, they know that this is a judge-free zone. Our staff creates an environment where women walk in and they feel welcomed and they feel comfortable being whoever they need to be. The second piece is because we provide, as a staff, that feeling for you as a student, we ask that you take on the responsibility to do that very same thing for every other woman who walks in the space. And that's where the magic starts to happen. It's not that you're going to be void of this judgment because you've been conditioned to for however many years you've been alive. You may have that judgment, but let's paint the scenario that I'm the mom who I'm getting ready for class, and I've got my baby, and the babysitter just came in, and I'm like, I really got to get out of this house, but the baby's still stuck to me, so I birth the baby one more time, and I hand it to the babysitter, and I get in my car, and I'm like, oh, thank God, this is like 1 hour of my life finally to myself. And I go to put on my seatbelt, and all of a sudden I realize that the baby puked all over the back of my shirt. And I look at it, and I'm like, meh, I don't have time, I'm going to be late. So I show up to class, but like my hair is like this, I've got baby puke down the back of my shirt, and I'm sitting in class just thankful I'm alive without a baby stuck to me. And the music starts going, everything's awesome, and I look across the room at this amazing young woman. And first of all, she walked in, and she's looking all kinds of gorgeous. I don't know where she was before she got here, but it couldn't have been work because she looks amazing. And her hair is beautiful, and her makeup's on, and she's just glowing. And the song comes on, and her hips are just like this, and she's hair tossing, and all these amazing things are happening. And I'm going to look at her, and potentially I'm not going to like her. And it's because she is everything that I want to be right now, right? So it's very easy for me to look at her and go, oh, whatever, show off, right? Whatever else is going to come out of my mouth. But my job, in the second rule, is to take that and put it aside and realize that that's about my insecurities, not her. And look at this woman and cheer her on for everything that she wants to celebrate in that moment. Everything she wants to celebrate. Because what's going to happen is when I do that for her, there's no scarcity of love and encouragement, ever. It's not a piece of pie that the more you eat, the less there is. So when I give this encouragement and this love to her, what happens is she starts to give it right back. And instead of breeding hate and this judgment and this awfulness at her, I'm giving her love. And she, in turn, is going to give it right back. She's going to look at that baby puke on the back of my shirt. She's going to be like, I don't care, dude, you look amazing out there. And so this interchange starts happening, and that's where the magic is. And then the very last rule that we have in our studio is that when you start to discover who you are because you can play and experiment without judgment, and you start to encourage other women and feel that coming back, that you take it outside of our studio. You don't keep it to yourself. And just have this be this beautiful pink little bubble that you don't want to tell anybody about because you don't want anybody to ruin it. Right? You take that and you put it in the rest of your life. And this is what I'm going to invite all of you guys to do here today. A lot of you guys don't come to my studio. You've never heard of my studio, and that's fantastic. But these rules, these principles, you can start to change how you function and how the world around you functions. So, what I want to bring all in here together is to have you guys understand that you have a very unique and sacred space to fill in this world. And when you shrink from it, when you start to quiet your voice because somebody is judging you, the entire world around you shrinks just a little bit. All those connections that you're supposed to make, all the impact that you're supposed to have on this world starts to fade because you've chosen to shrink. As a woman, and as a man, I'm speaking to women because this is my journey, you can be anything you want to be. You can be loud, you can be quiet, you can run through the woods naked, you can like to just sit sit at home and read a book. You can laugh with this amazing snort that blesses the entire rest of the world. When you go to Starbucks, you could, if you wanted to, order a coffee that if you wrote it on a piece of paper and let it rip, it would roll out the door and halfway down the sidewalk. You are allowed to do that. You don't not do that because you're afraid of what everybody else in the coffee shop is going to think of you. You can be anything you want. But my question is, do you know what that is? And if you don't, that's the problem. We need to create the space where people can discover at their heart who they really are. So are you willing to step out? Are you willing to shake off these lies and this conditioning that you've lived with your entire life and step in to the birthright of your badass potential and rise to be the sacred soul that you are meant to be?